Don't listen to the noise around you. Just follow what you're doing. Don't look at what anyone else is doing. Common sense and manners. That's what you need. Being polite doesn't cost anything. I did speak to Matteo from Tale of Us. They basically started their own label because no one wanted to sign their tracks.
Exactly, for me.
And that's one of the reasons why we started Save Records, because we wanted to put out our music because no one was really signing it.
For over 25 years, Nic Fanciulli has carved out his own lane in electronic music. In an industry where careers often burn bright and fade fast, he's achieved what only a rare few ever do: longevity at the very top. In this conversation, we dive into his residency at Ants, his bond with Carl Cox, and how holding residencies at two iconic clubs shaped his sound, his career, and his legacy. What is your advice to your younger self?
Only one thing, because I'm really, really like, there's not many things I wish I'd...
We are here for the next installment of the Dojo podcast, and we have a guest that I have been looking forward to for a long time now. We have Nic Fanciulli in the studio.
Thank you
Nic,
for having
welcome
me.
to the Dojo podcast. This is just going to be a chat. So we're just going to talk about your life, your DJ career. There's many questions that I have, and let's get started and let's get stuck in. First question is, you've had a very long career now, an illustrious career. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been close to 25 years of international touring now? Like,
That's right, yeah, 25 years.
From 2000 onwards,
Yeah.
that's when you first broke through, right?
Yeah, I kind of, obviously I was into, the backstory was I was in a band and I was playing drums in a band. And then I walked into my local record store and I started buying kind of like the band orientated electronic music, like Underworld, Daft Punk, you know,
Right.
that kind of stuff. That's what kind of got me into that world. And then, yeah, from about 97, I started had my first set of decks.
All right.
I think I was like 15, 16.
And I've heard a few stories about like how you landed your first residency, Club Class.
Yeah.
The illustrious Club Class
Yeah.
in Maidstone, which was famous as a spot where you could hear cutting edge house music. Take me back to the beginnings of the DJing and then getting to the point where you're thinking, this may be something that I want to do more often or as a career. How did you get there?
I'm trying to think 25 years ago, but
yeah.
yeah, that's gonna. No, I do remember this story well. So basically, Club Class, like you explained, was one of the top clubs in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, week in, week out, it would have like Sasha Digweed, Carl Cox, and it also had the longest drum and bass night on the Friday. So that was called Pure Science, which was a massive influence on me as well, drum and bass. But I was working in a record shop called Tart Records, and the promoter Serge used to come into the record shop to flyer and stuff for the event. I used to go to the events and stuff, watch all the DJs play, and I used to hand mixtapes into him. And what happened was I was so excited to get the tapes done that I never used to write my name or contact details on them. So about 6 months later, a guy called Serge, who owned Club Class, basically found me and he goes, "Look, we've been trying to find you. We want you to play for Club Class." I was like, wow, that's amazing. You know, that is like hometown club. That's like playing for your hometown football team. And then I got thrown in the deep end.
You lived in Maidstone at the time?
I did, yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
okay, awesome.
Yeah, I'd moved down to Maidstone, I think 92, I think it was. My family moved down from London. And yeah, he had the tape, he put me on. I became really good friends with him and the resident DJ, Tommy Slav. And then I got my residency there.
And what year was that?
99 to maybe 2001, around that time.
Right.
Yeah, I can't put my exact,
2001.
yeah. So
Okay.
I was playing once a month.
Okay.
You know, which was a big thing, you know, being sandwiched between. And the great thing about playing there was I got to do the opening set, the middle set, and the closing set.
Wow.
Different
so
times.
3 sets a night.
It depends. It depends on which month I was playing. You know, sometimes the main guest would have to shoot off early and wouldn't be able to close the club. So that's what really, I kind of like my amateur days got me to sort of learn the trade really well. Like, you know, how
you learn the
how
craft.
to become how to become a DJ. And like, you know, 1 minute, you know, you're opening the club from 10 till 12 and there's no one there. Next minute you're doing 12 till 2 and then you're doing the big set 2 till 4. So every time I played there was like a new challenge.
Yeah,
So and I was blessed because I worked in a record store, so I had access to pretty much every new record that was out, and You know, I remember working in that record shop, and probably I was earning like £50 a week, but I was spending £120 a week on records. So the economics weren't really working out until the shows came in.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, but yeah, it was such a great time. It was a great time where there wasn't really a genre either.
Yeah.
Everyone was in the UK was just playing music.
Yeah.
There wasn't a pigeonhole.
You could go in all different kinds of directions.
Yeah. And it was, which then that kind of led on to, that club was at Atomics. Sadly, a developer came in, wanted to turn it into flats. We then moved,
the usual story.
Yeah. We then moved to Icon, which was more of you would have heard of it as like a chain ritzy kind of club. It didn't really work for the brand. And then we went back to a club called The Warehouse, which was, for me, the highlight of that residency. You know, I got to get involved with the bookings.
Right.
You know, I used to get like Laurent Garnier, Eric Murillo back in the day, a lot of people.
And then I think one of the pivotal moments probably was you and Pitong playing together, right?
Well, Pete's a Kent boy.
Yeah.
So he was like, says, keep it Kent. So
right.
he kind of took me under his wing, supported me a lot when I was playing down here, came and played for me a bunch of times. And then obviously helped me get into Radio 1.
Yeah, I mean, this is when I first became aware of you. I remember very vividly the first time I heard you play. It was at Homelands.
Wow.
And I think it was one of your first really big shows. It was daytime, Radio 1 stage.
On the Pyramid, Radio 1 Pyramid stage. I remember it really clearly.
You're wearing a slanted baseball cap, slightly little bit. I remember. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that baseball cap?
Yeah.
I thought because it was like, I remember that because it was kind of an old sort of baseball cap that's well worn out. And I was like, I like that baseball cap. I was wearing a baseball cap too. I was wearing a nerd. What was it?
NERD?
NERD, nerd.
Yeah. I had one of them.
Pharrell's band.
Yeah.
I was wearing a big, and those were highly sought after. But yeah, that was the first time I heard you. Like, it was a daytime set. Homelands was a big thing back then in the days.
It was massive. And
I remember broadcasted live on Radio 1.
Yeah, and it was just as I started working closely with Radio 1 when Matt Priest was the controller of the electronic department. And, you know, I was doing the Essential Mixes and I was doing the Homelands one. And then they started a new show called The Residency. And I think it was about the time, and I don't quote me on this, but Pete was touring a lot, and I think he felt like he couldn't commit to Radio 1 because Radio 1 didn't really like pre-records at the time.
Yeah.
They wanted the live feel, which was... so I came in and I did a bunch of shows called The Residency, which was on a Thursday night. There was a rotation of DJs, I think Eddie Halliwell, Trophy Twins.
Yeah.
I can't remember the fourth, but yeah, didn't really like it. Didn't enjoy it because I didn't like having to take away from like touring.
And that was on the weekends, recording at the weekends.
Yeah. I think that was a Friday.
Yeah, there's always going to be a conflict there.
Yeah.
You can't pre-record, you know.
And from day one, it was the studio was cool, but it was always about the touring for me. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to play places in South America, in America, and what I was lucky with at that time, I was with an agency called Represents, and they were Seb Fontaine's agency.
Yeah.
And Vanessa rang me up and said, you really need a US agent. And at the time, I'd just done a bootleg of Cheer Pet Westworld under Skylark.
I was just about to mention that track, because that's probably one of the most played tracks throughout the years. Still relevant today, still being played today, being played by everybody from Villa Lobos to Archie Hamilton to
it's
myself.
Funny, it's just having another resurgence now. Everyone started playing it. I saw Ben Sterling playing again.
Just a big tune, it just always goes off, you know.
And it was funny because I didn't have the original record to do the remix.
I want to go back to all of that later on, but carry on with that thought.
Right. So she said I needed a US agent. And at the time it was very UK based. People were doing like 3 shows a night. They were doing London, Stoke, Manchester. And I was like, Deep Dish. And they had just started an agency called Bullet. And it was them, Danny Howes and Beirut. And they were like real big heroes for me at the time. And I spoke to Ali, and Ali went, yeah, we would love you to join, but we want you for the world. I was like, I rang Vanessa up and I said, sorry, I have to go and do this now.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I have to leave the agency. And that was when my touring really started.
Okay.
When I joined Deep Dish's agency.
Okay, amazing. Deep Dish played that same Homeworlds as well, Homelands.
Yeah.
They were also there. They were massive at the time. They had that big hit with a guitar-y type of...
Flashdance.
Flashdance, that's the record.
Yeah.
I forgot the name, but like that's the one.
Yeah.
I want to go back at, again to like Club Glass. We've kind of skipped it like a few parts there, but I just wanted to like ask you, how did that relationship with Pete Tong come about? Did he just notice you as a resident from Club Glass? Did you meet at some point? Like
There's two sides to this story actually. One, obviously, we were in Kent, and he was from Kent, and you know he had a great relationship. The second one was that I'd just done a remix of Dancing in the Dark as Skylark, and he gave it Essential New Tune. So I was on his radar. Yeah. Skylark, if no one knows, it was myself and a guy called Andy Chatterley, who was, you know, we obviously don't work anymore together. We never fell out, but he was the biggest inspiration in the studio. You know, he knew everything around the studio. So all the Skylark records were, you know, were with him. Yeah. And it was an amazing time. The second thing was I'd started a record label called Portum Records with myself, my best friend Matt Blewett, and Owen Ingram, who used to run plastic surgery. And I signed a record from America called Modulators Drifting. We got a vocal put on this record, and then there was a huge bidding war for this record. Huge. And Pete Tong played it 13 weeks in a row on the Essential Mix. I met Pete in Miami. I'd never been to Miami before. I was like, just turned 21. I got picked up in a limo, taken to Ultra. That's how much he wanted to sign this record. Sadly, though, I didn't sign it to him in the end. I ended up signing it to Multiplier, who offered us like 3 times as much money. Right. And the record tanked. didn't even get in the charts. So, but that's how our friendship kind of started. So yeah.
Okay. So he picked up on the tunes. I mean, I remember these tunes very vividly, and you know, it's funny that you mention these things. Well, not funny that you mention this. Obviously, mention them, but because they're a big part of your career. But like, this was on my questions that I wanted to ask you. Is Skylark the project, because your partnership with Andy Chatterley like spawned a few records that were very, very influential at the time. As you already mentioned, your remix of Dancing in the Dark, that was a huge tune. Like, I was at uni at the time. Yeah. It was like, you know, like we had this local club night called Maison in Bournemouth, and which was bi-monthly. Yeah, and they had a lot of UK talent playing there, UK tech house talent playing there and stuff. And that was a huge record for us as students. Like, when that tune came on, the dance floor was erupting and full. There was another one called That's More Like.
Yeah,
That's More Like It.
Yeah, on CR2.
Yeah. I think that was your first.
That was the first single.
First released that you've done together with Andy.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a huge tune as well. I remember hearing that first on the Essential Mix. I will religiously, the Essential Selection. I religiously listened to the Essential Selection at the time, and Pete Tong was really pushing those records. And then obviously, you know, your remix of Chip at Westworld, which is a record that I play to this day. Yeah. There's a couple of other Skylark ones that I'm still playing.
There's that A Studio, the one that we did. There was the Praise Cats one that we did. Yeah. But the funny thing about the Skylark thing, how it came about, was Rob Cockerton said there's a guy in Greenwich, not really in the house world, but an amazing kind of talented engineer. And I was like, right, I want to go and speak to him, because I was just learning kind of like ghetto way. He just had an Atari ST, a desk, and a DAT drive, not too much hardware. So I took my turntable up there. Because I wanted to play him what my vibe was. Yeah. So I would say that 50 to 60% of the Skylark records were samples of just stuff that I was recording on vinyl. Right. And we were putting it into the EMU sampler and just ripping it. Yeah. And it was very much how, like, we'd play it back on the computer, and I'd be like, oh, it's missing a little bit more of a loop. So I'd keep going through my records until I found the right loop. Yeah, and it was quite an interesting process. And that's
very much how I still make records now.
Also, I love that. And I think I need to go back to figuring that out again. Yeah. But at the time, it just felt organic. You know, I was very influenced by, you know, the Todd Terry sound as well, and Van Helden and things like that, you know, where it was very loopy and very loose. And if you listen to all the Skylark stuff, it's not 100% in time either.
I think that's what makes it special. Yeah. You know? It's not computer music as we know it, you know, it's sampling. You know, like I sample a lot, and like obviously like I use all the modern production techniques that you have on Ableton, and I do all my own synths, a lot of stuff in MIDI in there, but like there's always samples in there that kind of form like the heart of the track, that could be a vocal, that could be a drum loop,
And even if you tune it into a different, it's...
So like it's always part of that. But I wanted to get more into like this project. So Skylark was super influential, you and Andy Chatterley together. Later on that became the Buick project.
Yeah, Buick project was kind of another outlet for our music that we were doing, because at the time, I'll be honest with you, no one really signed the records at the time. They were after bigger records and stuff, and that's one of the reasons why we started Save Records together, because we wanted to put out our music because no one was really signing it or weren't that interested in it. And it's funny, I did speak to Matteo from Tale of Us about this about 10 years ago. We were in Creamfields, and they basically started their own label because no one wanted to sign their tracks.
Yeah,
and I said it's exactly the same story, and it was true.
Yeah.
And then along the way, we obviously started signing up Paul Wolford and Ash Subban, and we were signing these great artists along the way because they liked what we were doing. But the Buick project was just another outlet, and we wanted to be a bit more electronic because I was really into that T. Schwartz sound.
Yeah. That electric sound that came through at the time.
Mandy and Booker Shade, that whole movement of Get Physical at the time.
Exactly, for me.
And so I basically created another kind of part of what I did as a Buick project. And we actually did like live shows as a band with that.
Right. Yeah, it's funny that you said like you were really into that sound because, and I'll have to tell the story now, like how I won the IDJ Raw Talent competition and you happened to be a judge on that competition for the guys and girls. For the people that don't know, what IDJ was, International DJ Magazine was one of the big publications in the UK. You had Mixmag and you had IDJ. Back then, DJ competitions were a way of breaking through. They were very influential. You had Bedroom Bedlam, that was won by Youssef and James Abelia, and that made their careers. And then you had Raw Talent. You were a judge on Raw Talent together with John O'Beir and Eddie Halliwell.
Yeah.
And there was somebody else that I forgot. And Savage.
And Savage, right. Wow.
And Savage. That was a panel of judges.
Because I guess they had to have
you
different
were the
genres.
only one that I tried to impress, really, because you were doing house and everybody else was doing like the harder stuff.
And it's funny because you told me this story in Chile about 3 years ago, and I couldn't remember. Then I had to go back and I found it.
Yeah.
The story, and I was like, wow.
So I ended up winning the competition, and I'm not telling the story to blow my own trumpet, but I'm just making to illustrate a point about the music at the time, because I was very heavily into the German sound back then, the Berlin sound, Mandy, Booker Shade, Get Physical, Mark Romboy.
That's probably what I listened to.
Mark Romboy,
yes.
And I remember your comment was like, this was a great mix. What was frustrating was that I didn't know many of the records, and I should know, I would really like to know what those tunes are, obviously we had to submit the track list, but I felt like I was very early onto something, that sort of minimal sort of sound that came out of Berlin, which was very raw, very clubby, less polished than the records that came out of the UK, less focused on vocals, because at the time, a lot of the house records that came out as more underground versions. And as soon as they got picked up, as soon as they became a hit, they got the vocal version, which then got the music video, Junior Jack would do a record, and then they'd slap a very commercial vocal on top, and those records then would cross over, But you had huge records, I
think because that period there was so much money flying around with major labels.
Yes.
And there was not enough, homegrown things that were being done. They were like, right, let's sign that. We can put that vocal on that. It was kind of like a process, and it worked really well for them. FFFR,
Underwater.
Manifesto was a big one with Luke Neville and the guys. They did it a lot. Mercury Records, AMPM. There was so many there was so many big.
The records seemed to be bigger at that time.
Yeah.
Rather than compared to now. We get big records now.
But they weren't in the same league.
But back then we had things that were getting daytime radio play.
Yeah.
Everybody knew the lyrics if there were lyrics there. Big tunes like Tim Deluxe.
This goes back to what I was saying. The genres are all molded together.
Yeah,
you'd hear all these records in the same set, even if they were slightly different. Back in especially the late 90s.
Yeah,
there was no. You maybe had hardcore drum bass, and then you just had house and techno, and it was kind of mixed together.
Do you feel it was easier to break through as an artist back then, or is it easier now?
I don't know. I couldn't say. I think back then it was just publications. So publications and mixtapes, and you had to have a residency really for people to see you.
Yeah.
There was definitely a lot less DJs though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely a lot less. And I just remember it being, you just played and you didn't have to worry about anything. You just played your music and that was it. Now I feel like there's a lot more going on.
Yeah.
Whether I'm further in my career, but at the time it just felt really organic and just natural, and you just, you didn't have a game plan in your head.
Yeah.
It was a hobby that turned into a career.
Yeah.
And that was it. Now I think what it is, I didn't have as much information as the younger generation do now, where they go, wow, look at that place, look at that DJ, look at that record, oh, look what they're doing. I want to do that. Well, before I didn't have...
You didn't really know who many of the artists were, because they were like, every producer had like 10 aliases.
Yeah.
The aliases were like always just like random names that had nothing to do with the actual, the name of the producer, whatever. Like it was all these, and you just didn't even know.
I remember
who
like
these people
Sasha was so aloof. You didn't know what he was or who he was, or I remember seeing the front cover of like Music Magazine. It was him with a halo around him, like the Son of God or whatever.
Son of God, yes.
And I was just like, wow, this is like this is insane. But they didn't speak as much as the what DJs do now.
It was a lot more mysterious, and even like people like Sasha and Digweed going over to the States and doing their residencies there at like Twilo and stuff like that. That was a huge thing. They're going to America once a week to play at Twilo. Like that just, like people didn't
I
tour
remember
like
that
that.
Homeland show, they're just flown in by Concorde, and I was just like, what?
Yeah.
It was different now. I'm not saying it was better or it was worse. It was just a different vibe.
Yeah.
Especially that progressive scene. It was a very...
The Global Underground series are really paved the way for those artists being like going around the world and playing. This is a super interesting time. And now we're at a point where your career is starting to take off. You had Radio 1 featuring those records. They were very well received. They were played by all of the big names. You've signed to Deep Dish's agency. So what's happening then?
I'm basically their warm-up DJ. That's what I was doing, but... say warm-up DJ, I was playing in front of thousands of people every week. So, we'd go to Dublin on a Tuesday at Redbox and there'd be 5,000 people for Deep Dish. Deep Dish, if people forget, Deep Dish were probably the biggest duo in dance. Sasha
Legit
and Digweed
superstars,
and Deep Dish. They were sitting right there. You had Carl and the other guys around them, but as a double act, they were huge. So I was the doors were opening everywhere. So I'd left the UK pretty much. I wasn't even playing in the UK that much. I was touring America before EDM had come in, South America, Asia, Australia. So they opened the world to me, really.
Right.
So they really, really helped. And then after that, I kind of started doing my own touring. So I would probably do like the big shows in Toronto with them, but then I'd go and do Milwaukee on my own, or I'd go and do like, secondary markets on my own. And then I became really good friends with James Zabila.
All right.
2005, 2006.
A huge influence on me. An absolute legend of the game. Him, still to this day, I don't think there's a more technically gifted DJ out there that can do the things that he does.
He was so far advanced. And I had a residency in 2006. This is how the friendship started, where it was called We Love Sundays at Space.
Yeah.
That was the night, that was the one everyone wanted to play.
Spend many Sundays at We Love Sundays,
And I think me and James, I don't know how it started, the relationship, but we played back to back, basically. And we're like, this is really good fun together. I'm just mixing. James is like turning the equipment inside out, and just if anyone hasn't seen him in his peak.
If anybody hasn't seen this, Google some James Zabila videos, like CDJ tricks, EFX 1000 tricks, see what he does. He can do things with equipment that nobody that designed the equipment had even thought of.
This was 20 years ago doing this.
Yeah.
So now it's fine, it's acceptable. We're doing early day, he was... He was just, he was on fire. And even sometimes I'd have a
mad scientist.
Cigarette break and just walk off. I'm like, you carry on for a little bit. I'll come back in a bit and I'll play some music. And then we're like, we should do a tour together. So 2007, we did 1+1, which was probably the biggest thing I'd ever done.
Right. Oh my God, I remember that now, yes.
Me and James toured went around the whole world. Went to America, we did 27 shows in 30 days with another guy called Ross Evans, who was RTM and warm-up DJ as well, and one of our best friends. We did the whole tour bus across America. Then we went down to Australia, up to Asia, into sort of Europe, and then home. And it was insane. Just two mates just traveling the world.
Doesn't get any better than that.
No,
really.
and it wasn't. But it was so good. And you got to imagine, James was one of the probably in the top 3 or 4 DJs in the world at that time.
Yeah.
So I was realistic. I knew that I was like the sidekick. You know, I knew where my place was and stuff like that. James was like, right, you know, we'd done the tour, we did a few other shows, but it wasn't tension or anything like that. We just grew apart. And then I remember the year after, I probably had the crappiest year of DJing ever.
Why is that? What happened?
The real minimal sound came in.
Oh my God, yeah.
Minimal sound came in, and yeah. And
it just like, yeah.
It just wiped the floor with me, and I was like, well, I'm done.
At one point, it got very bleepy and and very ungroovy and not very housey at all.
Yeah. I think that was one of the reasons why I went in to do the Buick Project stuff, because I was really tight with the T-Schwartz guys, because they were playing We Love Sundays and Ivan Smag and them guys. And I did enjoy it, but I'm talking about the real minimal stuff, like, you know, like Minus and Steve Bugg stuff, when it was really, really bleepy and stuff like that. But yeah, just no one really cared about what I was doing. I was making house music, and I guess you could say Skylark was early day tech house before it came to where it was now.
Yeah,
you know,
the early 2000s tech house is such an influential sound. Nathan Coles.
Oh my God, Peace Division.
May you rest in peace. Peace Division. Justin, you know, like
Drake. Yeah,
I learned producing from Justin. You know, he engineered the first 2.
Worked with my brother as well, Mark. I learned a lot from him as well.
I used to love hanging out with him.
Yeah,
he's such a great guy.
Yeah,
I used to just love hanging out with him. Like watching him produce was just going to school.
I never worked with him actually, you know, and he was one of the people that I always wish I did actually work with.
He's busier than ever.
Yeah, good. You can tell his music
busier
so
than
good.
ever. Like I always go like, "Oh, Justin, you still going?" He's like, "I don't know what it is, Ben." He goes like, "Just got more work than ever." You know, like clearly that kind of skill set is always going to be in demand. But you've just touched on something that we talked about earlier in the car. While the cameras weren't rolling, and I want to go back to that, where you said you had the worst year DJing, because you know the predominant sound at the time was a very kind of stripped back minimal sound. Minus Richie Hawtin was ruling supreme. Magda, Troy Pierce, all of those guys around the Minus crew. You were doing house and tech house basically, but you told me in the car earlier, one of your career mantras is like never go with the current trend. Yeah. Always go against the grain. So please explain to me how you came to that. How did you develop that philosophy?
I kind of, that was, and I'm not going to name names, but I've seen DJs around me jump ship from what they're really good at to chase something.
Right.
And never be able to return back to where they've come from. So I learned a lot from looking and observing people around me. Secondly, I was like, you know, it's a marathon, not a marathon, not a sprint. That was one things I always learned from an early age, that, you know, I want a long career in this. I don't want to be in and out you know, in this industry and gone the next. I want to be around. I love it. I love playing music, so I need to really nurture this and get this right. And I just felt this thing where I couldn't change my sound, because just on a whim, like you know, just on a moment, because, you know, I'd seen like Josh Wink had a resurgence. He made like acid house back in the early 90s. So I knew at some point it has to come back.
It comes back around. Yeah, it has to come back around.
And it hasn't, you know, like, and I don't have a big personality like a Carl Cox or anything like that. So when I'm DJing, it's just my music that does the talking. So yeah, I just went back in the studio, made a bunch of records that didn't make sense. And I was like, I'm making them because everyone else is sounding like everyone else. And I was just like, no, I need to stop. I need to go back to what I was doing and just elevate it to the next level.
And when did you feel things started to change? When did your fortunes come back round again?
Was brave enough to put out my first record under my own name. Which, you imagine, I still hadn't made a record under my own name by then.
That's
you
crazy,
know, and I put out Nic Fanciulli's Lucky Heather, and it was basically this company.
Was that on Saved as well?
No, it was on Renaissance, and it was part of my compilation with Renaissance.
Right.
So the compilations came around. You know, we'd done the 1+1, we'd done the Global Undergrounds, we'd done the Renaissance, and yeah, it kind of took a turning point, and it went straight to #1 on Beatport. very influenced by a Little Louis record. So like if you listen to it, but it was just my own take on it. It was housey, and from there it kind of I had the motivation to build it back up again.
Right. I think there's a lot to learn from that. Not going with trends, because I tell that to my students all of the time at Dojo. It's like, you got to do what you love. And I have an actual course on Dojo Pro, which is called Ignite Your Creativity. And I always teach, build a genealogy, like a family tree of influences, right? So first you go back to what you love. Then you find out who are the guys that I love and what can I find out about them? Can I read any interviews? What are their influences, right? So that will lead down the rabbit hole to more artists that you can find out about. And then what are their influences? And if once you start going like 2-3 levels deep, you have a whole family tree of influences basically that lead you to what you love. And the knowledge is much more deeper than superficial, like, oh, I love, whatever, whoever's trendy at the time.
Yeah.
It goes deeper. And you can always go back to that. Because like when it comes to demos, it's actually crazy because obviously you run a record label, I run a record label. You know what it's like with demos. When there's a current sound that's trendy, all of a sudden your inbox gets flooded with 1 billion demos that all exactly sound the same. And how are you going to stick out when you like behind the curve, you're trying to jump on a train, jump on a bandwagon, right, of a certain sound that's current right now. But the people who made that sound, the sound of now, made those records 2 years ago.
And they're on something new.
Yeah.
They kind of go,
then people are jumping on that 2 years later, and your demo's just not going to stick out.
Well, we can see it at the moment with a particular genre, don't we? We both know what that is, and it's going that way right now. But it's and which isn't a bad thing, it's going to run its course of time and stuff like that. But I always think when you're, it's not stealing, but if you're influenced by like certain people and certain artists, and that's fine.
Yeah.
There's
a thing that I want to interject here. It's called steal like an artist.
Yeah.
Steal from one person is called plagiarism. Steal from many is called creativity.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. You listen to a bunch, and that goes back to the Skylark days when I'm sampling records from different people.
That's creativity.
Yeah. And I'm just like, right. And then I put it together and it sounds like none of their records.
Exactly.
But I'm using the best bits of that.
All the different ingredients from all of these records. That's exactly it. Yeah.
And I remember that nowadays, it's a lot tougher to kind of create your own sound because, there is big fashionable sounds right now.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to stand out, I think.
Yeah.
With the amount of music that's being delivered, that's the problem.
And I feel that there's people out there who kind of jump on a sound fairly early and they know how to do, because they're so proficient as producers, they can do a certain sound really well. And they'll get decent careers of it. They'll start touring, they'll sign to the good labels and stuff like that, but they never become truly big. Like I've never seen one of those guys become really big just jumping on a sound and doing the sound of now, just doing the sound of now. Like, and obviously there's a component of everybody has to sort of go with the times and doing the sound of now a bit, in your sets and whatnot. Yeah. But you've got to mix it up. That's something that's uniquely you, and that comes from your own influences. And I think young producers struggle with that, finding their own voice, and tuning out of what is the sound of now and really just finding their own influences,
But that goes back to the case of, playing music out, testing it out, finding your sound. You know when you found your sound. You know when you feel like you're playing the right records around it. You're digging deep, and and everyone has it. Like you have moments through your career where you're better than other moments in your career. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, it was like obviously having family, kind of like. It takes a back seat every now and then you go back to it, But when you're younger, especially that first 10-year period within making music and playing music out, that's the funnest time. There's no better time than that. There's no stress. There's no financial commitment. There's no this. You just want to work and you just want to have fun.
You're just hungry.
Yeah, you're hungry. Yeah. You really are hungry. And it's like, slowly the things that you thought were amazing kind of get less and less, but ultimately playing the music out is the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
absolutely, it. Yeah. So, you've established yourself now at this point. We're going through a timeline here. You've done the tours of James. You're going around the world. How did the relationship with Space come about, and the relationship with Carl Cox, which has become like a legendary relationship in your career, especially with Space?
I think it was funny because I had the residency for We Love. And then I remember this really clearly. I can't remember the year, but I remember what happened. I was really loyal to them, and I was doing 10, 12 shows, residencies. We didn't care about the set times, put me on early, put me on late. I was never complaining, I'd come and do it. And then I think they agreed something, and then they chopped it down to 4, and then they told me the set time, and I was just like, you know what, guys? And this was March of that season. I said, I'm just gonna walk away. I'm fine. I'm good. I don't feel comfortable working on this together. I was like, fuck, what have I just done? And then Carl rings me up out of the blue and basically goes, I heard you left Sundays. Come and play for me. So I was like, wow. We had a great relationship before, just seeing each other. And from club class, when he used to play, I always used to hang in the DJ booth with him. And then we had a really iconic night there where there was a power cut. He was playing mid-set, I was in the booth with him, and all the sound system went out. The lights went off, it was pitch black. And I remember someone found a knife and put it in the fuse box, and turned the fuse box back on, and he just had the monitors and everything kicked back in. And it was
those moments.
And he will tell you about this story. It was incredible. So anyway, yeah, we've left We Love. We've gone to the Revolution on Tuesdays, and slowly but surely, I was playing 4 or 5 times for him, and then he was like, "On the closing, should we just start the terrace at 6 a.m. together and play till whenever?" I was like, "Yeah." So that's what happened. All the closings were the 6 a.m. We'd go on the terrace together, and we'd finish at 2, 3 in the afternoon. And
magical times.
If I have to explain this to anyone that's listening, it felt like the Sorcerer and the Apprentice.
Yeah.
Because I was the apprentice that was literally watching him week in, week out, doing what he did. Do you imagine, again, it's like, there's the guy that you look at and who are influenced by, and, because the one thing I love about Cole isn't just the music, it's the humbleness of him.
Yeah.
How he makes you feel part of the room, and how he has time to talk to people, how he has, that was a real important thing for me.
Yeah.
And to get asked to do that, and then it just got out of control. Then Space closing, we're like, we need you to do that for Space closing, and we need to, and that was every year. And then obviously the big one was 2017 or 16, 17.
The final party of Space. Yeah. That's gone down in the books. As a legendary day and night. And
it was a tough one because in between all of that, we've missed 4 or 5 years in between that. But Jan from Ushuaia, and Jan had a little, if no one knows, it's a really cool beach club in Ibiza at the time, and it was where Luciano and Cocoon used to do, and Sven Vath used to do the after parties.
Yeah.
Then he opened this bigger venue within the Ushuaia hotel, and he came to me in Miami with Leslie, my friend, and he basically said, "I want to start a new night on Saturdays. I want to call it Ants." And I was like, "What?" That fucking sounds awful. Do you know? And he was like, "I'm going to have ants everywhere, and I'm going to make it, call it the colony." And I was like, "Okay, I'm not sure about this, mate." And he said to me, "Trust me. I promise you, just trust me." And I said, "Okay." So we started up the back end of Ushuaia.
Which was a beach club back then.
Beach club, yeah. At the back end of it. And within about 2 hours, there's 3,500 people there. And the week after, we had to go to the main stage.
Right.
And then it's still going 12 years later.
Yeah.
But this was all happening. Carl was letting me play for both. So I told Carl about the residency. He's like, "You can do both. You can come play for me 4 or 5 times a season and do your weekly residency at Ushuaia," which was super nice of him. Obviously, then that leads into the Space closing, which originally...
An emotional moment.
Yeah. I mean, had my parents there, had my wife there now, who was my wife now. I literally... I can't explain it because you don't feel too much at the time, but when you look back at it and you see the people messaging you and you see who was there and who streamed it, because I think we had nearly 27 million streams of this thing live.
Everybody
which
watched
insane.
it. Everybody watched it live. I watched it live,
And the plan was, we woke up at 5. Carl had played in the day in the car park, and we woke up at 5. We were all staying in the same villa together. We were going to start at 6 in the morning. We were going to do 6 till 10, and then Carl was going to close on his own. We got to 10, My tour manager was there, and I was like, it's 10 o'clock, we should pack. And then Carl just grabbed my arm, and you probably see it in the video, and he's like, we're going to close this club together. And I mean that.
I just love how he, like, in the moment, he goes like, no, like, plans changed.
Because it was working so well.
Yeah.
It was like, it was such,
and you don't change that magic that's going on. You know?
And it's funny because you wouldn't put us two together. Like, you would never think musically it would work, and never think that, you know, because Carl was obviously from the techno background and stuff like that. I'm from like the house and sort of tech house side of things. But again, I always believe in back-to-backs. Friendship is more important than the music. The music can work itself out. You can get there because you can. If you understand each other well enough, you can figure out the music joining together. And
it's going to be interesting, that kind of tension that's going to be there. You know, where like you don't come from exactly the same backgrounds. No. You'll have to work with the record that the next guys play. And also, you know, one thing that can be said of Carl Cox is like he's got an amazing range as a DJ.
He's got a great range.
You know, like he can go into anything that he wants. Yeah. You know, like,
and sometimes it does happen. Like, you know, if Carl's on his little techno ride, I'm like, I'm just gonna go to the toilet. I'll be back in night 5.
Yeah.
So because I don't want to interrupt it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of a back to back.
Yeah.
You know, if you're on like this little train and you're I'm like, you carry on, mate. You're good. You're good for the moment. So and he used to do the same with me. You know, it was like there was no rules, there was no format. We just and the beauty of it all started from just a beer and going, let's start at 6 a.m.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean that stream, the Space closing was legendary. Okay, there's a couple of other things that I want to talk about now. First of all, longevity. Like we've talked about longevity before. Like this is some of the things that I admire you for personally. You're one of the few guys that's maintained a consistent, successful career, staying relevant, doing what you love, you know, having a full calendar year in, year out for 25 years. First of all, what do you think is the secret behind the longevity? But then also, what is the cost? So do you feel like you've missed out on anything? Like, has it become harder over the years to maintain this kind of grueling schedule? And how do you deal with that? So first, how do you get to longevity? And then what is the cost?
I think, let's go back to the start, yeah? So you're a bedroom DJ, you're enjoying it. That's the most fundamental thing you've got to do. You've got to enjoy what you're doing. You know, it's music. It's a hobby. It's not. It wasn't a career to start with. Secondly, I've always had a manager since day one who has been by my side and always supported me. I've had a great support system. You know, I've even from the days that I was earning nothing, I always had someone around me that was supporting me. Whether it was Serge in the early days to now Milo in the latter part of my career, and I've just followed my own goal. I've never, and this is a really important thing. Don't listen to the noise. The noise around you. Just follow what you're doing. Don't look at what anyone else is doing. Don't get upset. You know, and use the challenges to motivate you and not make you deteriorate. You know, because like I said to you, there's been challenges through my career that, you know, people can say, oh yeah, but he hasn't. It's true, there is. You know, there is a lot of challenges that will hit you along the way. And just to stay focused and to stay motivated every day, get up and I have a list every night before I go to bed that I'm going to work on the next day.
Right.
And that's really important.
Lists are very important.
Lists, and I know it sounds silly, but I've been doing it from a notepad to a computer now.
Yeah.
And it's whether you can achieve 2 or 3 things the next day, that's fine. It doesn't matter how small they are.
Yeah.
But just making sure that, you know, whether it's like, you know, booking flights or, you know, working out where you've got to go to and, you know, who's playing before you, you know, just understanding, you know, and I've always done that. I've always done every show that I've done. I've always want to know the set times. I want to know who's playing before me, what their style is, just so I know that when I walk into the room, I'm prepared.
Yeah. Due diligence,
yeah. And don't overthink it. I think that's the big thing that, you know, I know the mental stress of touring and traveling, and the younger generation have a lot more information now around them. Yeah. And they probably look at other things that are going on. And I really, really want them to stop, you know, it's not tell them to stop looking at it, but stop looking at it and comparing themselves because you're your own person. And it is really important because I know it sounds like, you know, it's all a load of waffle, but it is. Once you get in your own lane and you understand where you are, that's the thing. You know, there's DJs that are way bigger than me, that do way better than me, but that doesn't bother me. It's like I'm in my lane and I'm super happy with that lane.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you touched on something super important there, which is like the malicious influence of comparing yourself to others.
Yeah.
I had times in my career where I really struggled with that, where like, and it's always the guys that are pretty close around you. Once they start becoming a lot more successful, you stop being jealous because they're out of your sphere. But like the ones around you that you're kind of the same, basically. I used to really struggle with that, to the point where I was like, didn't want to look at my social media because it's like, why did he get this and why did he get that? And it took a lot of inner work for me to come to a place where I'm just not focused on anybody else, and just, as you said, being in my own lane and go like, do the best that I can do for me, you know? And the only person that you should compare yourself to is your former self. And have I done better this year than I have done last year?
And I do believe that I can tell in my career when it's gone up and down is the amount of effort and preparation that I've put into it.
Absolutely.
And it's the same with anything, with sports. The results pay for what you put into it.
Yeah. You get back out what you put into it.
Yeah. And I think I kind of, the social media generation didn't really hit till about 2015, 2014. So I was already deep into music already. So I never really paid too much attention of what's going on around me. So I was very lucky, and the only time that I've wobbled is when I'm traveling, when I'm away from the family, when I'm away from, missing out. And like you say, the sacrifice is big. If you want to travel the world and you want to play clubs around the world, the fact is you are going to miss weddings. You are going to miss your best friend's birthday. You are going to miss, people having babies around you. Do you know what I mean?
Life tends to happen on the weekends, I always say.
100%.
And when you're gone at the weekends, you're going to miss out on a lot of that.
So I have to focus with my family Monday to Friday and pack 7 days worth of work into that with them as well as preparation for the weekend.
Yeah.
So I think I've got it right. I don't think I'm going to be around forever, and I've had such a great ride. But
you had a great run.
Yeah, and I love it, and it's still
not. It's far from over.
No, it's far from over, and that's down to, again, having great people around me, still having my school friends in my life, still having the real people in my life.
I think that is so important. I mean, another subject that I want to touch upon is like what sort of success can do to people's egos. And you see some people, not going to name any names, obviously, but like you can see people that change when they become successful. And I feel the people that don't change, the people that are very sort of rooted in reality, very grounded, are the people that maintain relationships with the people that they have always had relationships with. I always tell this story as like a good example. Daly, Hodson's 82, right? Whenever you at one of his shows, there's a bunch of his mates there, right? Yeah. But all of his mates are literally mates from back home, from when he was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
Like literally, like they're not hangers-on.
Daly's a really good example.
Very grounded.
Good example. And he's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few of us.
He's a very positive example.
Yeah, and there's a few of us that don't buy into the bullshit of the industry.
He's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I was lucky. I had two amazing parents that gave me the leash that I needed to go and do what I wanted to do. They basically supported me, and they still, they were at my show a couple of months ago in Spain from an early age to basically say, you know what, common sense and manners. That's what you need. That's the fundamentals of anything, in any industry. Being polite doesn't cost anything. And relationships I built along the way with promoters and that supported me even when I wasn't fashionable in music. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I was saying I had my dip, the promoters still came back and worked with me because they weren't dealing with someone that was demanding or, and stuff like that. And then having your friends around me, now I'm lucky. I've got, 3 amazing kids. I have a wife that tells me the home truths. So when that puts me in check, which I really appreciate most of the time, and I mean, it's very lucky on that side of things. But you have to work hard at relationships.
You have to work hard on it, and like you've just said. I mean, you've nailed it. This whole business is just relationships, and if you're a dick, people are going to find out really quickly. And you have to really work on yourself to just, even sometimes when, you've been like, I've struggled with this myself. Sometimes like, you're sleep deprived. Something doesn't go right while you're touring and you get angry about something, you know. And
that still happens to me.
It happens to me as well.
I feel like you've let them down. That's the main, you know.
And I'm always disappointed in myself if it does happen. You know what I mean? And and I try to sort of try to not let things get to me, but sometimes things can get to you, especially when you're on the road, because it can be very tough. But yeah, it's all about relationships. But, you know, I have some very positive, you know, memories about you, especially, like, and how you've nurtured relationships, because we didn't really know each other until, like, the first time we met was when we played together in Chile, and I warmed up for you at La Feria.
Great set.
Espacio Riesgo.
Great set.
Great venue as well, and great. That party went off. I mean, really like, it was an amazing party, and thank you very much. I appreciate you saying that. It was a good set.
It's nice to walk into a room and it was just the groove, and I love that.
Yeah. And also, like, I pride myself on DJ etiquette. You don't hand over on a banger. You don't hand over with the energy being up here. Just wind things down for the last 10. You can play your bangers during your set.
I know, you've got 2 hours to do that.
But you got 2 hours to do that. But then 15 minutes, 20 minutes before, leave them somewhere to go.
But that shows you the range that you've had from playing.
And the professionalism, you know, like, and you know, like, and I see that from everybody who's professional, they will do that, you know. Like, when I handed over to Daly, like, he'd noticed, and he goes like, and he just said to me like a pro, when he was like, you know, handing on that tune that's just a little bit, you know, like,
still keeps the crowd moving,
but less just, energy. Give him somewhere to go. I was interviewed on Josh Baker's podcast about that, and it was a bit of a hot button topic. I said, like, I don't like it when, like, warm up DJs hand over on their biggest tune, and people were enraged. I must have hit on some sore points there, because, like, people were, like, literally like, wow, like, you know, this is our time to shine, and who are you to, like, and it's like, come on, man, like, you know, it's,
again, music's subjective. Everyone's got their opinion on it, which is a bit, and
it was a hot button topic, but it was quite funny to see that people got so enraged about it. I just think it's good etiquette to hand over on a tune that leaves the next DJ somewhere to go. But getting back to the actual point of what I was saying, which is, we met in Chile for the first time, and, you know, I told you at that time, like, hey, like, you know, I won that competition back in the days, and you were the judge on it, so it was a special moment for me. And then I played for Abode. Was it in Maidstone?
Okay, yeah.
It was the festival where you also played.
Oh yeah, Moat Park. Yeah, Maidstone.
Yes. Yeah. It was in Maidstone, and you came over to the stage. And
I came to watch you play.
You came to watch me play, said hello, and it was so appreciated. You know, you didn't have to do that, and it just goes to show, like, the people that remember you, the people that put in an effort and time with you. This whole business is just relationships, you know. And I think, you know, same as Daly, you're one of the guys that just stayed grounded throughout the years and hasn't, you know, let your success gone to your head. And that's not an easy thing to do. You have to work at that.
I think as well, like, you know, you're never perfect. You're never, like, you know, and you know, we all like to people please, don't we? We always like to make sure, but there's going to be people that aren't into your music. There's going to be people. So you just have to stay clear of, like, trying to impress people. That's the one thing, you know, like, trying to, you know, I remember
seeking validation.
You know, I had the same when I always wanted to play at Panorama Bar and Berghammer, and I did that, and then I walked away and I was like, okay, I've just spent 10 years trying to validate myself to do that, but was it?
It's just another moment.
Did I feel like I had to do that, or the same with, like, the Circo Loco stuff or things like that? It was, I don't know. Now I just want to play, and I don't. You know, the validation is irrelevant. It's just I want to play music, and if people are there to dance, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's in a nightclub, you know, in some random city or one in New York.
It's funny when you've reached those accomplishments. Once you've ticked them off, like, it's almost like if they're in front of you and there's something that you want to achieve, they're this fuel that keeps you going, and, like, you really want to have this thing, but you don't really feel much different once you've done them.
No, you don't. You kind of, good shows are what takes you to the next weekend to make you feel like, wow, I want to still playing. You know, like, I just did Universe with Carl on Sunday. Yeah. Now I just can't wait to go back and play again, because it gives you, like, that energy to go back and you're inspired.
Give me your take on the new club, because I haven't been yet.
I'm going to say one thing: the videos and the pictures don't do it justice.
Okay, so it's even better than
it. I'm saying, you look at videos and pictures from nightclubs, and they're not the most, like, videos from nightclubs aren't the most glamorous thing in the world. I don't think. You know, I don't look at them and go, wow, that looks. You know, when you're there, what they've done is they have built something that is big, but still feels like a nightclub.
Okay, great.
And I said to Jan at the weekend, I was like, you've absolutely nailed this.
Amazing.
Because I was really worried about walking in and thinking it's going to be like this hyper club and there's going to be no soul and stuff like that. And it did the opposite.
It's a huge space,
Yeah, it's hard. In Play festivals, it's hard to get the room all moving and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's basically an arena that holds 8,000 people.
Yeah.
But sound, lighting, attention to detail. And I think he's probably the only one that could have pulled it off. And I was actually really, really surprised.
Carl's back.
I know. It's great.
Unbelievable, the energy the man has, and still something to give to the new generation. Let's get into the next topic. Your label, Saved. How did Saved come about? What has having your own label done to your career? Like, how has it shaped your career?
I think Saved. Well, I know the Saved started 2005 because we're celebrating 20 years this year.
Right,
our anniversary.
Wow.
With Andy Chatley and myself, we basically needed a vessel to put our music out on. I was really close with a guy called Dean Wilson, who now actually manages Deadmau5. He ran a distribution company called D&D. I basically told him what I wanted to do. He said, this is what I'm going to do for you. And that's how we started. We started with Skylark, Chancer was our first record. Then the second one, I can't remember what it was, but then them two tracks did so well that we started getting so many demos from other artists and started releasing them along the way. I had some ups and downs, like at the time vinyl was selling really well and that was what was keeping the label afloat.
Yeah.
There was Beatport. I can't remember what year Beatport came into play.
Beatport came out into play around 2007, 2008.
Yeah, that's when it kind of changed.
Yeah.
For us, our business model kind of changed and Andy went on to become, a successful producer. He did like a lot of pop stuff.
Right.
Worked with Kylie and stuff like that. So he didn't really have as much time working with me in the label. So we kind of like,
So he's still in music?
He's still in music now. Actually, we're gonna meet up again soon. We got back in communication maybe about doing Skylark again. Which would be quite a good fun. Because I promised him I'd never do it.
Please.
And it's been like
do a couple of records. That would be great.
15 years, and we've got so many. I've got to find the computer. There's so many ideas on there. And it was just after we got nominated for the Grammys. He met his wife, Narina Paley, who was a Brit artist, and he kind of wanted to go in that world. He was so talented that he felt that he was never a touring DJ. He never wanted to, So I took the label on my own. My brother came to work with me. He'd just finished studying music engineering at the University of Worcester. So he was running the label with me, and that was the best time. The best time with me and him. He was so on it with new music, so on it with like signing new artists and stuff. But in terms of my career, it was more about like signing good records and putting them out. That was the excitement, and then watching them do well.
Yeah.
But I don't feel it's helped my career.
Right.
I don't think it was a nice part to have. We weren't doing massive save nights anywhere.
Yeah.
We weren't doing, we did a few at BPM, we did some in London, but we were never like a Cadenza or Vagabundos.
Where it became a 360 brand kind of thing.
Yeah, we were never that. We were a label, and then I had the Nic Fanciulli stuff. And then around 2017, we hit a few hiccups with distribution. And then, it wasn't that. 2020 we did. And we stopped releasing for about 3 years. And we just started releasing from last September again.
Right.
And then I decided that...
But that's fine. Sometimes labels go on a break. I'm thinking about one now for my label, because like I'm kind of sort of reevaluating where my career is headed, because I'm much more of an educator now than of a touring DJ, or it's going in that direction. But going back to saying, you never put on the label nights, whatever, you were a promoter though. You put on your own festival.
Yeah.
How long did that last
for?
If
Luke's watching this, he's going to know the pain we went through for this thing.
Please fill me in on that.
Basically, I used to run my nights at the Sauce Bar in Maidstone.
Yeah.
And this, if no one's been there before, it's a tiny little pub/nightclub in the middle of Maidstone with an alleyway that runs down the middle of it. So I went to the owner in like 2009 and I said, I really want to do like a series of parties. Can we close the alleyway off? And he was like, yeah, I think we can. He's like, you sure? I was like, yeah. So the first lineup I had was Marco Carola, Carl Cox, Adam Beyer, Luciano. In 4 weeks. We had 4 weeks back to back.
Roadblock.
It was insane. It was like, you know, and I was still like, and I put all my own money in and I was like, right, let's see if this worked. And it did work really, really well.
What was it called?
I think the first one was called Save Sessions.
Right.
But then it evolved into the Social Festival.
Right.
Which is the one we're probably talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. So in the end, myself, Luke Bendel, and I had my tour manager at the time was Joe Daly, who went on to do Abode.
Right.
Yeah. So he helped. I said, right, he wanted to stop tour managing. So I said, look, you can help Luke help do the lineups for it. So we did Mopart the first year. It was Carl Cox, Tale of Us, Loca Dice, Cole Craig. I mean, it was pretty epic. One arena, one stage, 7,000 people. Bang, did it. Second year, Solomon, DJ Cozy, Fortet, Jamie Jones, Seth Troxler, Richie Horton, Lauren Garnett.
You wouldn't be able to get those lineups.
Fuck me, honestly.
Ever again.
And I saw the lineups the other day and I was like, how do we get them? Because there was no competition.
Yeah.
We didn't have We Are Festival. We didn't have Creamfields down here. And we were paying really good fees, which were really like, still good, but reasonable. Right, we did that, 15,000 people. Right, let's go and build a 25,000 capacity 3-day event with camping. Andy Weatherall. I brought back Sasha and Digweed. They hadn't spoken in 5 years. I put them back on the stage. I met them in Tokyo and I was like, you need to get back together. Come and do my festival. They DJ behind a white sheet the whole way through it. It was insane. Like, you know, we were doing epic stuff like that. Epic stuff like that.
Yeah.
Black Coffee.
Yeah.
One of the first times he'd come to the UK, we put him on. We had the late Jack Master playing, Scream. We had like everyone. And I lost £250,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like,
how? Like that's like this is how grueling this business is.
And I laugh about it now, but I paid every single person back. The production company we were working for was just atrocious. They charged us an extra £160,000 the day before the festival.
Wow.
Which wasn't in the costs.
Wow.
Which wasn't done because like we were on it. You know, we were really on it. And my background was in accounts, so I knew exactly where we were at. Luke was an amazing like producer and production guy as well. And yeah, it just amazing festival. It ended up.
It goes to show how difficult it is, and the pressures. Festival promoters have. You know, like sometimes, like I can feel a little bit pissed off about the lineups that I'm seeing put together, where people are just going for, you know, the latest Instagram or TikTok viral DJ, basically, and putting them on lineups, you know.
The detail I had with this festival was insane. I had Andy Weatherall on just as the sunset. Like, I wanted Andy Weatherall on at that particular time. Then I wanted like Black Coffee after him, just because I knew the levels of what I wanted and how I wanted it to finish.
Yeah.
You know, and it was so meticulously done. Like
and this is the point I'm trying to make, which is that you see the choices sometimes promoters make, but when you give me the background stories, like you understand why they make those choices. They're like, well, I gotta put a person on that has 1 million followers because
which wasn't the case.
Because if things go wrong, you know, then I'm fucked, basically. You know, money wise, you know, and if you purely curate from the passion of music rather than getting people through the door, as you've done, you know,
it built up slowly and nicely, and we just went. And the problem was, you know, the production, and it just bit us on the arse. And I said to Luke, I was like, I again go back to my favorite thing in the world is DJing and playing, and I just felt that this was probably the time to stop doing the festival. I felt like, you know what. We walked away. If you saw the lineups in 20 years' time, you're like, wow, it's insane.
You've done that. You know, you've ticked that off.
The year after, I got a call from the Mexican promoters that I'd worked with, basically saying they want to take the social to Mexico and Colombia. And I was like, actually, you know what? I'll work with you guys on it. I won't take the risk on it. I will help curate it for you. We had 2 special years doing it over there. And then again, they came up with the same problems. More festivals coming into town. DJ fees doubling, not sustainable unless you get a big sponsor in it. Yeah, it kind of fizzled out after that, and then never did events after that.
I don't blame you.
It was fine though. It was great. It was a great time, and I was so buzzing about what we did for the town of Maidstone. You know, we basically put Maidstone in terms of electronic music. You know, early day Club Class did it. Then there was a gap in the middle, and then we kind of
back on the map,
elevated it again.
Amazing. And there's something, I think, deeply rewarding about putting something back into your local community.
Yeah.
You know, and then inspiring the next generation of ravers to come from that community. Some kid that goes to that rave for the first time that goes like, for me, this is very special, and I want to pursue this. And
it's so scary though now, because rural clubbing feels like it's done.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame, because
every small UK town used to have one of those.
My career, it was based on that nightclub in my rural town. And I feel like it's you know, it's what it was is, and I think the reason why it's happened is because you could come and see me and Jamie Jones playing Maidstone for £25, or now you could go to Drumsheds for £55 and see a festival. Yeah. And it's 20, 30 minutes on the train. Yeah. And I feel like that's what's happened. That's the reason why it's not really that, you know, no one's to blame. It's not just the economics of it now.
I started out as a resident DJ as well, and I look very fondly back on those times, playing a long time, you know, and my club wasn't based around guests at all, so it was very long sets. But that's kind of lost nowadays. Like, I think things are just changing, because obviously the lineups that you're getting now and the level of production that you're getting now is way beyond what we had back in the day. Yeah, even the big events like Homelands, when I was at university, when I came to see you, the production wasn't on that level. They just put up a tent and put some speakers in there. There wasn't any lighting.
I mean, you were lucky if you had a toilet there.
It was like, just like, it was.
I mean, it's night and day now, isn't it? You know, Tomorrowlands and even festivals now that I'm playing in Europe, they're all catching up with Tomorrowlands now in terms of production. Yeah, I think everything's like, you know, it was new, fresh. Now they need to elevate it. Now they need to excite more people.
And I think things are going to be a cycle again. You know, like at some point, some people will get turned off of the big commercialized scene, and they will go like, we got to go back to what we love. We got to go back to putting on smaller nights, and those nights still exist, you know, and those pockets still exist. You know, like I still play a lot of smaller clubs, you know, because that's how my career has evolved. You know, there's some festivals, but not as many festivals as, you know, somebody at your level. And I still see that club culture still alive in those smaller places. You know, like I can go to some small town in Chile and there's like 500 people there who are passionate about house music, you know.
But it's funny, but Italy and Spain and France don't seem to be as affected as the UK.
No.
Because I do, like in Italy at the weekend, you know, I'm playing like, you know, I played an after party.
Yeah, many smaller clubs.
Yeah, and it was so good. So good, you know, especially in Italy, you get in a car for an hour, you drive there, it's a nightclub in the middle of a field, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, that's what I'm talking that I miss about in the UK. I do miss that there isn't that community like there used to be.
UK especially has gone a certain way. Like, I think that's very unique to like this sort of realities of life in the UK and you know, property development and that kind of stuff. You know, like you remember the days where like you had like in London, the Key, the Cross, Canvas, you know, all of these small little clubs, Bagley's, at the End, you know, lots of little clubs, you know, that were just frequented every weekend, you know, like by everybody who used to go to all of those clubs. Yeah. And now it's all big warehouses. But there's a whole generation of ravers that have grown up without even knowing those clubs.
No, you're
you know,
right.
I spoke to a guy recently and I was like, oh, like, do you remember the End in London? He's like, no, I don't remember the End. And I was like...
one of my first residencies was the End.
Yeah.
It was
by the way, like, if you don't know the End was Mr. C's club. Mr. C and Leo and Bushwhackers Club. Oh, Leo.
Just Leo,
Just Leo and Mr. C. And they were co-owners of this small but amazing space. He used to do Circle Local parties in there. Shane Watcher used to do the Circle Local
Laurent
parties.
Garnier, that's where I used to watch him 7-hour sets he used to play.
Steve Lawler I saw there.
Yeah. But I had the residency in the last year of the club being open. And
amazing club.
It was very, very special, and AKA upstairs.
Yeah.
But going back to what you're saying, you know, about the clubs and stuff like that, and the regeneration of certain areas, which King's Cross, you know, they did a really good job with that. Obviously, they took away a lot of nightlife. But if Printworks, for example, which I think is one of the best clubs that has ever been in the UK. Yeah. The UK government should have done, do you know what? This is a great...
Let's preserve this.
Like, you're never going to get something that feels and looks like that.
Yeah.
And if that was in Holland, I guarantee it would probably be preserved. Yeah. Do you know? Or
there'd be some cultural initiative to say like,
and it's frustrating, you know, it's frustrating that you see, and I understand that, you know, development is important housing. But I feel like, you know, I hope it comes back.
The UK has a long history of not recognizing electronic music as a relevant industry that's important to the country and the city, which is very sad because the UK has been instrumental in pushing that culture worldwide, you know. And you get places like Amsterdam or Berlin where it's culturally recognized as culturally significant, you know. And these places must be preserved as culturally significant. And it's sad that you don't see that in the UK. Okay, so let's get into the sort of final bit of this conversation now. I want to get into like some sort of more wider philosophical questions.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you is like, if you had to do it all again, would you change anything? What is your advice to your younger self if you could sit down with, you know, Nic 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and saying like, I know the score, this is how it's going to go, this is the advice I'm going to give you, what would you do?
I would think only one thing, because I'm really, really like, there's not many things I wish I didn't say yes to a lot of things at the early stages. You know, I can't do that.
Be more picky, basically.
Be a little bit more picky with what I did at the start of my career.
It's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, and that's the only thing. Everything else is like a learning curve, you know, the rest of it. But yeah, it was definitely a case that in the early days, it was like, yeah, I'll play that, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do that. And then it got a bit confusing at the start where I should be playing and where I shouldn't be playing.
It's such a tough one because in the beginning, you just want exposure. 100%. You just want to play, 100%. You know? And then saying no to things is like when you don't have enough things coming in. Yeah. It's really tough.
Yeah, you're right.
You know?
And that would be the only thing.
Okay.
The only thing that I would change that in the early days, I wish I could have kind of been a bit more reserved and said no to a few situations.
And if you had to give advice to people who are trying to make it right now, like for somebody that's enjoyed the longevity that you have in your career, if you are, you know, mid-20s, early 30s, you have a passion for house music, you want to build a career in this, like, what is your advice to young artists right now?
I think start to create, like, you know, like a collective. That's what I really believe in, like a collective, because people, you know, want to be part, like, you know, how I started was like doing my own little nights and stuff like that. And I know it's harder and it's financially, it's difficult sometimes to produce your own nights and have your own record label. But people have to come to you. Do you know what I mean? They want to be drawn to you for something you do. You know, it's a double-edged sword. Like, do you make music to go with your DJ career? It never used to be the case. You could be one or the other before. You could be a DJ and not make music and still have a great career. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like it's, instead of pushing it on other people to book you and stuff like that, I believe that you create your own thing, you create your own vibe, you create your own nights, you create your own label, and people come to you.
That's a great point, Nic. That's a great point, because I truly believe that our main job is to create communities as artists. Create communities, people that buy into what you do.
Yeah.
You know, and once you've created your community, that's your ticket value right there.
100%.
You know, because people will come to see
stock.
you.
It's your stock, isn't it? Because you know,
creating communities.
It's quite easy to get slotted in between it, but you get lost. If you can create something of value that people are really into, and you know, my one was the Sauce Bar in Maidstone. I used to play every Thursday night with another guy called Rob Cockerton, and we used to bring people in, and then by the end of it, there was a queue outside, and then it was, you know, that's...
And it takes a while.
Yeah, it does, and some weeks are shit. So what? You know, it's
a journey.
Just the way it is.
I remember when Enzo Siragusa started Fuse, and you know, like I was there from the beginning as a resident, and the first Fuse was 5 people at 93 Feet East on a Sunday morning, you know, and it's turned into a big brand, you know.
And like my example is, and like, you know, it's like the marathon over the sprint. But when people, like, you know, talk about like kind music where they are now, regardless of whether you like the sound or not, like, and me was doing stuff on my label in like 2008, and
that's a marathon.
And that's, so I love that guy. I think he deserves every success he's got. But what I'm trying to explain to people is that they might have just seen them now, but they haven't seen the hard work that's been put in before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I played kind of music in Berlin with Saved, and you know, like, there's good nights, there's bad nights. You know what I mean? And again, when they used to come and play for me in Maidstone, you know, sometimes it was busy, sometimes it wasn't. But we kind of stuck.
And
to
they
our
went
own
through
paths.
that before they got to where they are now. You know, that's
just an example of like someone that, you know, looks at, you know, that's the extreme, I guess, going from there to there, but it doesn't matter as long as you know, you get to where you want to get to.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a brilliant one to close on. Thank you very much for having this conversation with me. I really enjoyed this. This was a special one for me.
Me too.
And I just want to say, I always forget this. Please like and subscribe and comment if you enjoyed this podcast. We've got more amazing guests coming up on the Dojo podcast. And if you want to learn how to make music, check out Dojo Pro. Nic, thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate it. Thanks for actually picking me up at the station as well.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And
thanks for making the effort to come into my hometown.
Hopefully you're dropping me off as well.
Yeah, of course.
This has been great. Like many podcasts have guests on multiple times, and I would love to talk to you again sometime in the future.
We've got more to talk about.
Okay, nice one.